All right, everyone. So this is our healing portion through journaling, and thank you for the stories. We do have time if anyone wants to ask any of the panelists questions We do have opportunities for that right now. Thoughts, questions?
What's the name of your daughter's book? She has two. One is called Life Behind the Books. So if you go to our website, you can actually click on here. You can go through, I think it's speaking engagements, and it'll have the books and it'll connect you straight to Barnes and Noble, so you can be able to get it. But it's Life Behind the Books, and she also has a book. I didn't read Life Behind the Books, but she also has two journals. It's called Documented Journal of Unspoken Thoughts, and that allows you to document your thoughts in that journal. But the other one, which is just pages. And then at the bottom, it has, let your feelings and pain become another page in your book. One day you will look back over these pages and see just how far you have overcome. And then that's just like, but the book, Life Behind the Books is the one that has the actual writing in 28 chapters.
Thank you. Anyone else? Questions, comments for authors? So I'm going to get it started. As it was stated, we all have a story, but not everyone has the confidence or the time or wherewithal to say, I think somebody wants to read this story. So this question is for all of you. We all have a story, and actually some of us do journal. Some of us have journals that date back probably for the last, 5+ years. What made you decide and at what time to basically publish your book, whether it's published or self-published or be a publisher? What made you decide that that was the time to do that?
After I retired, I needed something to do, and I knew that I had journaled for years, and I was looking for voices of sickle cell patients, and I couldn't find many, and that was probably 7 years ago. So I decided to compile my journal into a book, and that's really what triggered it, was the need.
Thank you. Judy? Same question.
Oh, okay. What's the question?
What made you decide that this was a time, or what year that you decided to publish your book, to do it then?
Well, I've been through so much, and I knew that nobody understood. I could not make anybody understand what I was going through. And so I became more and more of a loner, and I had many thoughts and everything, and I knew I had confidence in me, but other people did not. And I thought, I don't consider myself a writer, but I do have a story that will make a difference in other people's lives, and that's why I wrote the book, because I thought that it would make a difference, and it's a story that needs to be told. But if it's not in writing, you're not going to believe it. And so this is why I'm here.
Thank you. Sheila?
I started writing, I have a box of journals. I probably have like 20, just of me documenting my life through the years. The good, mostly, I'll remember that even though I write it down. Sometimes that always tends to stick with you. But I started because I was working at Universal Studios, working all over the place, loved it. Here I am again, music and stories. And then just finding myself. I knew I wanted to write, but you would think with all these books I read, think writer didn't work like that. And I had been working on some film scripts. And so I got a lot of great feedback. And so I started writing to earn an income. As a patient, I didn't always feel like getting up and going to work. There were days I wanted to stay home and stay in my bed, but I still always wanted something to do. So I wrote my first book, self-published, I guess it was sold, and then I wrote 7 more. Meanwhile, God grew me up, and all those journals, I I went through them and going through them, and now I'm gonna tell my story, which I had to be transparent. You need to be transparent. I wasn't ready, y'all.
Thank you. Star?
What helped me to do it was, I guess I'll take the title from Pamela's book because that's what it was. At first, I only would cry at night because I couldn't let my kids see me cry. And secondary consequence to that was once my son went into the coma and came out, I made a vow to God that if he brought my son back, it was kind of like negotiating. If he brought my son back, that every platform that I would get to give him the glory. So I was committed, and so when he told me to write the book, I had to be in order, and so that's what I did. So that's how I wrote the book.
Thank you. Any other questions, thoughts? Yes.
I wanted you to elaborate a little bit on, I wanted you to elaborate a little bit on how you overcame the privacy issue, any of you. Because a lot of stories are untold because we don't want to reveal the intimacies of our personal lives. We don't want to expose our weaknesses. We don't want people to know about our pains and the burdens and the cross we've borne. So how do you get past that?
Go ahead. Let me say, when I went through elementary all the way through college almost as a loner. And
Take time, take time.
go ahead.
I had to get past my family because mine is very transparent. And they're true stories, but I had to change the names because I was revealing things that they were not necessarily proud of, but their actions were necessary for my truth to be told. So I changed their names just to take the edge off of them, but their truth is still there.
Let me say this. When I talked about the medical issues, I did not put anyone's name in there because it could have triggered a lawsuit. And if I could have sued, I would, but I didn't have the energy to do that because that was not the important thing. The important thing was getting the information out there because I knew that it was bigger than me. And so, in other words, it was a beginning. When you read what I have and all, but there's a way to overcome that even so, because I'll tell you, when you're still in the medical profession, that's a whole other animal. They will take, unless you can get pro bono, and if you can't do that, it's not worth it. It's important to get the information out there, and somewhere along the line, someone, they'll get theirs. You see, but it's important to tell the story, but you don't have to name the names, because that's not important at this point.
Thank you.
My privacy issue was I had a time to sit down and just think. My mom was going through some things and I was going through them with her. That's one of the things that have always caused me to be sick. And meanwhile, I'm sitting there and the enemy is steadily talking to my mind, you don't die, you know, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. And I'm thinking, well, what the heck did I come here? And I know I have a purpose that God has set me in this world for such a time as this. And the sickle cell thing doesn't go away. It just gets bigger and more people are affected. And he showed me, you can do something about that. You need tell your story. And while all our stories aren't going to reach the same audiences per se, he gave me a platform. So I'm like, let me take advantage of this, because tomorrow's not promised. And I want to make sure I did what I came to do.
Excuse me. I want to know how. So I want to know how you decided what audience you would write your book for. You said for high school students, because as I was thinking, a real good time for sharing that information is in elementary school, because I'm not saying what you did was wrong, but what I'm saying is that children are real open to things. And so it would be good if we could expose them and then re-expose them in high school, so that we just keep that message out there and people constantly, are participating and making sure that we sensitize people to the plights of other individuals who are going through things that they aren't going through. Because oftentimes, it's not just the person with sickle cell disease that's going through it. It's their family member that's sitting in the classroom with somebody else that also is experiencing the same, they're not experiencing the sickle cell pain per se, but there's a pain that goes into a family when they have a member who's affected by sickle cell disease. And so that it's it's bigger than that one person.
Thank you for that question, because I had this book leveled, and the readability level is at the 8th grade and above. So it's important that you don't put, this is some heavy stuff in here, you don't want to put that in there when you're dealing with younger students, regardless as to what they have gone through or they're going through. You don't want to scare them or anything like that. But there's something else, and I have something in mind for the middle schools.
Okay.
And there should be something in mind that different for the lower
I'm
grades.
not talking about that book per se, but I just really think the time to introduce the idea that there are people with disabilities is in elementary school.
I agree, but this book is important.
Right, it's not. Okay. And then the second thing is wouldn't it be nice if we could get you guys' books funded so that we could provide those to medical students and stuff, so that they, at no cost to them, so that they would be exposed to sickle cell disease without them having to pay for it.
If somebody has that answer, yes, it would be good, and all. Because I don't know how to convey to you.
They need to be sensitive and sensitized.
But it's hard to be sensitive when you don't know about something. And so it's so important for us. My kids, when they were young, because I was a volunteer at the sickle cell camp, I didn't know anything about sickle cell disease when I started doing that. But then when I had children, I said, my children have to know about sickle cell disease. I don't have sickle cell traits. My children need to know how people suffer from sickle cell disease. My children need to be exposed, and they need to give a helping hand to people who need their help. And so for that reason, every summer, my kids had, whether they wanted to or not, they had to volunteer at sickle cell camp so that they could meet other people with sickle cell disease, and so that they could share with them what they go through. And my youngest daughter, her best friend has sickle cell disease because she met her at camp. But I just think that we oftentimes, I've lived in communities where my classmates had sickle cell disease. I never had any idea. I just thought they were trifling. They didn't want to come to school. Right.
And I'll tell you, let me say this. These books are not necessarily for sickle cell patients. They're for everybody else that don't understand. And that is the important thing, that you need to understand what has gone into our lives. And I cry now, Jesus. I attend these conferences. It's the first time that I've been forced to talk about it. 73 years. I have been very silent on the issue. When I was a youngster, I had no friends. No friends. My 18-month-old sister was the only companion I had, and she was like a mother, you see. So anyway, the tears is coming because what you did today, you helped me really understand where the pain is coming from. It's not just
Because you were right at the camp.
but I walked through,
He's the only person in the world with sickle cell.
but when I go through to the doctor, this is what I'm bringing with me. You see, how do you get rid of these
Right.
memories? You see?
When I first started at camp, the people who were the counselors at camp were medical students. How amazing was that? Because when they left after that week at camp, with the exposure to people with sickle cell disease, their whole idea changed. And unfortunately, we don't do that anymore, but somehow we've got to get back to getting in to the people who we really want to effect change with. We can sit around and talk about it. We have
I
to do
guarantee
something.
you, when you take these kids through this curriculum guide, you'll get out of them what you want them to get out of it. And they will think about it when they leave there. It's not about reading the book and regurgitating just what they read. You see what I mean? That's unimportant. But there's
Let me just enter for a quick second, because I want to capture all these thoughts at the bottom. You guys are basically going through my healing portion, and this is exactly what it is. It's cathartic. It actually also opens up a possibility by connecting you with others. And you talk about being a loner and feeling that way. And obviously the pain is still so deep. But yet there's a connectedness with the audience. So I just want to say one more thing. I want to give the mic over to Pat Chima. You guys, everyone has a journal book. So while I actually give it to Pat Chima, I want you all to, because we have an exercise. We're going to do our raffle real quick. And again, remember, we still have one more small segment, and then we'll end our marvelous weekend. So, if you can pull out your journal books, everyone has one in their purple bags. And if you don't have one, raise your hand and we will get you, thank you. And we will get you a journal book. I'm going to give this over to Pat Chima. She actually had a question. And then we will give you an exercise.
Can I respond to Pat's question, Pat's comment to her, and then respond to her question? When Pat spoke about getting the books at a primary level, I feel that's vitally important. That's why I encourage my daughter to write the book. One of the things that I do is, with my daughter's book, which we recently did at Willis Hospital about 3 months ago, we went there and I went out and I solicited people to donate the books, okay? We bought the book at wholesale cost, so we didn't receive any money. And we went to Miller's and we actually, my daughter did a book signing there with about, I think it was that day, maybe 35 kids, and we left over a couple books, like 15 books. And in that clinic, it was probably maybe only about 15 kids with sickle cell, and the rest was just heme and oncology. But the purpose of doing that was to, like she said, it's not always about the sickle cell patient, it's about educating the community. And then the second thing that we did, which you spoke about, is when my daughter went to Washington, D.C. And meeting the president, one of the things you were able to do is you can donate books to the Smithsonian Library. So what I did was I paid out of my pocket because I'm looking ahead, and I purchased 50 books and I donated them to the Smithsonian because that would help kids, and part of it was that 5-day trip that was in Washington, our kids would go inside the schools in Washington DC. So my daughter did reading time, which a lot of those kids have sickle cell. So that's to answer your question. Like she said, all of our books are at different levels, but my audience is not one particular audience. It's anybody, everybody. My motto is live by design and not by diagnosis, regardless of what you have. I'll try to answer her question. How was I able to write the book and be transparent? It takes humility. It takes courage. It takes, most importantly, is honesty. Because you have to strip yourself of all pride. That's a hard thing to do because we all have some type of pride. And that's why the Bible says God resists the pride, but he embraces the humble, because we have to humble ourselves. So I had to be willing to let go of any pride that I had, no matter what. So you see the ugly, you see everything. Because I don't care about how you see me, because that's a mask. I want you to see the real thing. So that's what it took to write a book for me.
And
I guess this is where you have to write things down.
Okay, one thing, I don't know why, like, I really understand for everybody on the panel has it. I feel, and I can really relate to it. My thing, I don't know why we treat sickle cell like STD, like something you cut from somewhere, so you're ashamed, you don't want to share it. So you have to live in isolation, like, okay, this is my thing. I think that's one of the biggest problems we have in our community. I was telling some friends yesterday, I said I was living, when I was in the UK, my roommate, her daughter had sickle cell, and she knew I had sickle cell. She wouldn't even reveal it to me. It was like 7 years later when she died, and I knew that the girl had sickle cell. Her in-law told me, said, oh, you didn't know Angel had sickle cell? I'm like, really? And this lady, all the while, she knew I had sickle cell, but we don't talk about it. Everybody, I remember being, I'm from Nigeria. I remember being back home. I have sickle cell, I'm with my mom. My mom can never tell her friends that have sickle cell, and her friends, I mean, nobody talk about it, and this is the big problem I think we have. We should be able to tell somebody, like we were saying yesterday, oh yeah, they treat cancer patients different, but once you see someone that has cancer, the first thing they tell you is, I have cancer. You know, that's the first thing they'll tell you, oh, I have cancer of this, oh, they say I'm going to die or whatever. But we that have sickle cell, you might be sitting next to somebody that have sickle cell. For 100 years, the person won't even open their mouth to say that they have sickle cell. I still have friends here today that don't tell you that they have sickle cell. And I said, how can you live like that? How can you be comfortable with somebody? You can't even tell them your real self. We had somebody that came to the meeting one time. She told us, she's a Latino girl, I don't know if you guys remember her. She told us her story, she was going to get married. She didn't tell her fiancé she had sickle cell. So I think that is our problem. We should start telling our story. I mean, there's nothing to be ashamed of, because I didn't catch sickle cell from sleeping with somebody or sleeping around or something. No, I was born with it. It's not something I chose, you know? So I think we should start opening all our mouths. Whenever you see someone, and that's what people know about me. Well, the moment you see it, I'll say, oh, I'm Pachiwa, the next thing you're going to know about me is I have sickle cell. So I think we should start telling people about sickle cell. Then things will change, even the way they treat us. Thank you.
okay, can I say something real quick? You don't have to worry about the microphone. I carry the trait. I got into this because I went to a golf tournament where they were talking about sickle cell disease, and a light bulb went over my head, where a doctor told me in New York City that as I was leaving his office, oh, by the way, you carry a sickle cell trait. And I said, what's that? He said, don't worry, it will never affect you. Not because the man was trying to be rude or ignorant, he just didn't know. Fast forward, come to Los Angeles, find the National Association that I can really help, use my little bit of celebrity that I had for a few years to travel around this country. And I have found one thing to be very, very sure, but she just said people hide because of a stigma. I don't understand a stigma about something that's a blood disorder. It's not, what is that stuff you get? It's not AIDS, it's not syphilis, it's not something you got from eating dirty food. It's a blood disorder. Back to the point that we were talking about. Ever since I have been advocating for sickle cell disease, I don't have the disease, I don't suffer the same way you do. We have found that trait, I suffer from trait, I know it's gotta be trait because I ain't no other reason for my body breaking down the way it does. But ever since my kids have been in school, this is from kindergarten all the way through their now juniors and seniors in high school. I go to their schools. They ask me, they have something happen in their school and say, sickle cell comes up, and the teachers don't know anything. Teachers don't know. The kids think it's something that only black people can get. The kids think it's something that is a negative thing. My kids come home and tell me, I call them, let me come and talk. I come kindergarten, elementary, junior high, and now high school. I have been to every one of their schools. Stop that, baby, stop. I've been to every one of their schools to talk about sickle cell disease, and without fail, when I do that, when I leave those classrooms, the teachers and the principals are asking me, do you have books? Do you have something that we can put in our library? Do you have something that we can put in our schools? Do you have, I lead, different work. So there is a value to every story that y'all are telling, and there's a need. I don't care if it's above, if they can't understand it. Somebody else will understand it, somebody else, because there's always somebody that has sickle cell in their family that's not talking about it. Right. So if their kid comes home from school and said, this lady came and talked about sickle cell, you know what it is? It opens up the conversation in the family. It opens up the conversation in the school. It opens up the means for us to get Dr. Fulwiley that was here yesterday and take our stories to her, and it's worked out at Stanford. So every story, no matter what level, no matter what issues you have to deal with, please put the stories out there. Give us the books, give us the videos. This is 2016, so a lot of times folks just want videos. They don't want books, because kids don't read books in school no more. They look at movies.
We praise that what went on in the house stayed in the house.
Yes. Well, it ain't like that no more.
Our God for telling somebody.
Well, it's not like that no more, so let's not stay there. I'm from there too. Let's move it out of there.
The point that Pat Foley brought up was this.
See, I didn't need that
It needs to start in elementary. And the bottom line is that we've been saying for a while that all we have to do is go to the school. And, so literally, and say, we have a source for you to get education on sickle cell disease. I know that I had a German exchange student stay with me for a year, and she had AP biology, and so she knew that I had sickle cell disease. She said, I told my biology teacher. The biology teacher said, I want her to come in and speak. Yes. So my only point is that there's plenty of opportunity if we take it. But that may not be your forte to public speaking. Get someone else that you know that actually can do it, or let them know that you have a resource. There are books, there are videos that can be shown in the classroom. The bottom line of all that we're trying to say is that it needs to start young. If we're supposed to change minds and hearts, the bottom line is if we're going to do it, it needs to be down over here so that they actually can begin to start hearing. So that when they're actually in elementary school, from first to 6th grade for public, at some point within that first 6 years, all of them should have heard the word sickle cell disease, at least, and what it is. They shouldn't hear at age 32, what's that?
That's right.
So I think that the point is well taken. What I want to do, this is wonderful, is I need for you all to write in here to start it off. I want you to write, and while you guys are writing, we're going to actually bring the information, the Apple stuff down. Right now, I want you to write for 3 minutes, and if somebody can, I want you guys writing it. Ron, if you can, for 3 minutes. Everyone's going to write right now. And what you're going to start with is, I want. And then you're going to write. So we're going to start with I want, and I want you to write for 3 minutes. While you're doing that, that'll take us up until close to 4, and we will actually do our drawing, have a break, and then finish with Dr. Deborah Walker King. So for right now, I'm giving you the phrase, I want, and I need for you to write for 3 minutes, starting now. So Ron, if you can just kind of give me a sign that the 3 minutes is up. 3 minutes is a long time. I want. Okay?
They don't have their journals. Yeah, I need a journal. Story, you want something? To write here. I want a journal.
I have in the past, there's the one that says procures. What is a journal? If you have your
Pen, please. If I can get a pen for the front so that they can also participate. Thank you.
Do you want somebody to use this one, Carol? Here's one that somebody can use, as long as I get it back.
Oh, then I'm gonna write something for Keith.
Okay, I need a pen, please, so somebody can actually get a. How many of you need pens? So we need 2 more pens, please. Thank you. I want.
2 pins. Hold on. Okay. That makes you think.
Thank you. Bring down the level.
That's my, the breakfast stuff.